just talk about this, probably personal experiences, or maybe people that you know. And the basis of this particular story, what has actually come to put energy into this particular story, is this case of this Kenyan woman, a 64-year-old who has given birth at 64. She's given birth to twins. And listen to this. The lastborn, her lastborn, is not the first child. It's not, the twins are not the first children she's getting. No, her lastborn is 42 years old when she gave birth at 64 years old. And from 43 years old as the lastborn, count that to 64. That's about 22 years that she's had to wait and then ended up getting a child. How old then is too old to have a child? So actually, you can imagine the 42-year-old now will almost be a grandfather to the siblings who are the twins who have just been born. So in your experiences, be it man or woman, let's actually hear this particular story now from your conversation. Remember, the way we do it, we are live on 75W Radio and live on Umma Connect, both on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Zoom, where we are at now. We are opening the microphone. Remember, the way we do this program, it is about you. It's not about me talking down at you. It is about us having a conversation. Welcome to this global community conversation on the 26th, I should imagine, of October 2021. And we are talking, how old is it too old to get a child or to give birth? Be it for men, but most likely for women. Many at actually 50 years old, sometimes we think about 50s, early 50s, that women are already, getting into their menopause, especially around 55. Now at 64, that breaks the barrier. In fact, on Facebook, on my Facebook page, Diana Sempewa brought in a message to say an Indian lady gave birth at 72 years old. So there are still those records that are being broken, but sometimes it is out of desperation. This lady actually, from what I remember in India, I think this gave birth on behalf of her child, and that's where the controversy actually, I think, lay, because her child, her daughter, could not bear children, and she carried, the fetus, and she gave birth at 72 years old. Another taboo that is broken. But let's hear your own particular experiences. Probably people who have given birth at that very, very, very late age. Many of our mothers gave birth when they were just 15, 16, they would get married. You will remember a very popular story that I did about the woman, probably the most fertile woman in Uganda. She's had 44 kids. And she was 39 then when I did the story about 4 years ago. So she should be about 42, 43 now. And she's had 44 live births. And only 38 of the children still live. So some, of course, died along the way. But that's the level of fertility. This woman, her level of fertility, she could go on and on. And the doctors were actually warning that if you are going to stop her from giving birth, the possibility is she could actually end up dying. Now, this is the story. I would like to hear your side of the story. How old is too old? Probably you're still in education, you're still in college, you're getting worried. The clock is ticking. Get to 30, get to 35, and the panic buttons are already switched on. Remember, you can share your conversation in the chat room. You can just share if you are so shy as to participate in the conversation, or just send us a message, or just raise up your hand and we will come to you. But without raising your hand, the way this program works is I'll just come to you and we'll open up the conversation. Now, thank you very much. We are open into this particular conversation and I'll get people talking. Very interesting topic, I should imagine. And just as usual, the only way is for us to have a conversation around that. How old is too old to have a child? Ryan, you are live on 75W Radio and on Umma Connect via Facebook, via Zoom, and on YouTube live streaming. Ryan, are you there?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Have you grabbed your cup of tea? Because I just did. How old is
How old is too old? I'm thinking of 60 is too old.
How old are you? they never ask women for their age, but
exactly. Please don't even go there.
Are you in the 30s to the 40s? We could just talk about the blog.
I'm in the 40s.
All right. Okay.
I'm done with kids. I have 3, alhamdulillah.
You think you're done?
I am done. I'm done.
That's what I thought. And I'll tell you a very interesting story. If you look at the gap between our twins and the last born is 7 years. So 7 years we thought everything was done, done and dusted, alhamdulillah. 7 years later we get the sometimes called the accidental baby, and disappeared, and that is barakah. You can't say no. So you think you're done? I might say probably you're not.
I'm done. I'm done. Luckily, my husband agrees with me as well. I think age is not on our side either. 45, I think that's a good number. And having 3, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
But if you say having 3 and you're looking at 45 as quite old, we are talking about a 64-year-old Kenyan woman. What's your take on this one?
I'm thinking it's kind of a bit selfish for the kids. If you're 60, how are you going to take them to the park? When they're 10, they're getting more active. So how are you going to be active at 17? I think it's kind of selfish. That's my take.
Well, but you are lucky that probably you went in earlier and therefore you can grow. Because I actually got surprised. I hadn't noticed that I got married when I was 26 years old and my wife was 24. We were pretty young. I mean, if you think about it, and we are growing up alongside our children at the same time. But there are people who are caught up either by education, either by a lack of men, and they end up being in that particular situation. When you say it's being selfish, probably someone was.
I hardly think by 60 you stand a chance of getting someone serious. That's what I'm thinking on my side. I thought you're already struggling to get a husband. And do you think you'll get a husband at 60? I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. So if you're taking it to the level of kids, you need to think about it again and again, because seriously, I have friends who are nearly my age as well, but they don't have husbands. But how do you expect a 60-year-old lady to get a husband unless you're going to go for this, artificial insemination, things like that? But if you're going to go for a husband, it's another different story. There's no way. Anyway, I don't know. It's Allah who knows better.
Okay, Laila Kadu here in the chat room is already going up saying about Abakazibaoza buffet Bakaria women, when the biological clock kicks in, they start panicking. So sometimes it's not about the panic. Laila, thank you very much, Ryan, for that. Laila, you're saying about career. Hello, Laila. Laila, can you unmute yourself, please? Yeah, I see 2 hands up. Hajat Sarah, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We did miss you very greatly,
I'm back with the bang.
Oh, alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
it's quite surprising. It's quite surprising. I'm still shaking my head and asking myself, was it a natural birth or was it something to do with the IVF?
Yeah. Well, there was no IVF. There was no IVF because it wasn't an issue of to get children. Because remember, her last born is 42 years old. So probably along the way, something happens and then she ends up conceiving, and then we end up with the twins that are there, who are now actually, not even 1 year old. And the child they follow is 42 years old.
Yeah, it's quite really something very, very unusual. And we can't say that 60 is anything young. It's quite too old, because much as we have babies, we have to give them time, and they do take so much out of us. Children and babies are very demanding. You have to be physically, mentally, and health-wise fit to look after them. So I find this really something really may not be really something really good. She can't do anything about it. She's had the babies, but I think it's going to really take so much out of her, because I don't really think, because me in my 50s, I find it difficult. I can't imagine myself having sleepless nights with babies. One would be too much, and then two is quite really a big number.
But at that age, at that age, Sarah, you can look after your grandchildren. What's
Well,
wrong
at my own time, I
Yeah.
I really can't see myself in a position when I'm taking up full responsibility for a baby or a child.
Mhm.
It could be something I would do with help. But when you're the mother, at least you're the first point of call. So you have to be there full time. You're not going to sleep in the night. If she's not someone who is rich, it will be really difficult to get any help, extra help, like from maids or child minders. So it's quite a difficult situation for that lady. Probably people put their heads or hands together and try and help her. But I think it's something I would think to be something really off, not one I would wish for myself.
I think it's one story that probably I should have dug slightly more into it. And I'm sorry, I didn't get enough time to be able to, because normally what you do is I would find the family and then you sort of try to dig in a little bit in terms of the detail. But what I'm thinking, I'm just wondering with her sort of situation, if it was accidental, because if people continue to be sexually active, we're actually looking at the wife at 64, the husband is actually 69. So that even pushes the bar even higher, that now who is going to play with the kids? Probably the best position to play with the kids as grandparents instead of being the parents. But I'm thinking in case it was sort of an accidental conception where they didn't plan. I mean, if you look at 42 years old and as the last born, and then the next, at their own 64, they end up having a child or children at that particular age. That might be sort of, probably out of their reach, out of their possibilities. But let us assess the situation. In your own take, you're saying, actually, someone, I think Ryan was referring to this as being selfish. Would you see it as being selfish?
Well, if it's not something they planned or something they had a hand in, I can't blame them. But I think the child won't have the best of life, I would suppose, because children become demanding more even when they grow older. They are more challenging at teenage age. You have to have the energy and the mental capacity to deal with them. So they are quite in a fix. I don't see them, look, if you have to give a child like 25 years to get them to the adolescence or youth, then you have to be young enough yourself to deal with them when they come up with more challenging behaviors or challenging situations. Yeah, for a child or a baby, you're going to put in more sleepless nights. But then as children grow, you have to be financially able, you have to be socially able, all those aspects that bring up a child. So if you're old, then you're going to really struggle. When we get older, other health conditions come in. You may be having blood pressure issues, diabetic, things that come up as we grow older. So I think it's quite challenging for them. It's going to be very difficult.
But it's clear in this particular instance that they already have, like children from before. So the 42-year-old, for example, the son, might be able to take over, to take charge.
That's all you creating other people problems, you see. They have to have their own life to live. Yeah, if you're going to call someone else to come and look after your own child, then you are like giving them your own problems. Yeah, this is how we see
finding an answer to our question. How old is too old to have a child?
Well, anyone who goes between 45 is quite too old. Healthy, if you look at it as a in the health aspects, I think it's really way over. You may not be able to cope. It is.
But most people say that women, actually, I think I disagree with Layla. Layla in the chat room saying most women are not sexually active when they clock 40s. Yet, actually, most women get much more.
No, 40 sexually. I think when you are in your 40s, I think you enjoy things more than when you're younger.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where I was saying I would
Yeah, you are more mature and you understand what you like and things just are. Well, I'm speaking from my own experience. I don't know about others.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but then if it is where you are enjoying the most, that means actually that's probably the time to have a child.
Oh,
And
but
if
we
you're
are
saying
talking
that's
about a 64-year-old,
yes.
a 65-year-old, not
Mhm.
a 40. But yes, you're enjoying life, but it doesn't mean that you're in a position of looking after babies, much as you're sexually more active. Yeah,
Yes.
you're growing older and could be a challenge for you.
Now, given whatever is happening across the world now with all the changing dynamics, I mean, we've spoken about all the dynamics. Very many men in prison, quite a significant number of men now going, down the route of homosexuality. And then, many women embarking on careers and education that takes too long. These are all factors that are actually almost creating this kind of scenario. Do you think we are likely to have more people coming out to have children later in life as opposed to where we would the ideal situation?
Well, I think they can push it up to 45. But if you get to 44, don't count yourself so lucky because you may not be one of the people who are going to have those miracles happening to them.
And talking of miracles, I'm actually thinking, with the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Khadija, our mother, the first wife of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, she was 40 when she married the Prophet. Prophet was 25 years old. And in her 40s, she had 7 children. She bore six of the 7 children that the Prophet had. If you think about it, let's put a gap of, say, 2 years between each child. That's another nearly 12 years of childbirth. So plus the 40, that almost places her at 52. So that, and she was still very active. I mean, if you see all the children actually did survive, rather than, the fact that they didn't outlive the Prophet, but they did survive to get married and, and have a life later.
But Sheikh, have you realized that today we have many problems with people, with women giving birth? Today we have more cesareans. We've got so many medical issues.
Many
So I'm
children
not
coming
really,
up with deformities.
because of them having late conception.
Yes.
There are more problems that are related to their childbirth. So I'm not really hopeful that that is going to happen the way it happened in the Prophet's age. Because I think I don't even know whether they were counting years the way we are. It could be almost something different when we are thinking about 40, which is not real 40, as in 40, the 40 we talk about today.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll give other people a chance.
All right. Asfagasuja's hand is up. Thank you very much, Sarah. Remember, we are here on Come Let's Talk with me, KASSIM KAYIRA. We are live on 75 W Radio and on Umma Connected on Facebook, on Zoom, and on YouTube. Streaming live at this particular moment. Remember, you can leave your comment there. Ryan says, please shake it. Don't compare those days to today. Allah bless those people than today. Yes, well, comparisons are there, and I think that's where our conversation should be. It's difficult to think otherwise. Asfa, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Sheikh KK. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
wa barakatuh. We heard from Ryan in the UK. We heard from Ajat Sarah in the UK. You are in the United States. First of all, your reaction to this particular story. 64 and...
I truly empathize. Kuwanga, they might have been just an old couple enjoying life. And then they happen to be pregnant. I highly doubt that they were looking to really have any children. There must have been just an old couple, and then Allah's will, it happened.
Yes.
That is what I think. However, when you said how old is too old,
do you think they should swim in that? They should swim in the blessing.
They should swim in the blessing, because I mean, if they were not looking for it, then Alhamdulillah. Yeah, then Alhamdulillah. I don't think someone would be. Well, here I'll say, when they say how old are you too old, when you go in a hospital, I remember when I had my second last child, I was 39 at the time. And I went to the hospital. As long as you're over 35, they put a huge label, AMA, advanced maternal age.
Okay. That's
you really feel old. Yeah, you're like, And then they want to do this test. They want to check if the kid has Down syndrome. They want to take some fetal liquid from some fetal amniotic fluid to check if the kid is going to have some defects because you're 39 and you're too old. You literally feel like you're really aging and you're only such a young age. So when
is that
you
meant
hear
to make
64,
you feel guilty or what?
I don't know what it's meant to do, but when you go and you're over 35, they give you a whole list of the risks, and they give you a whole thing of tests to do because you're too old. You're advanced maternal age. And of course, you have the right to refuse some of those tests. You have a right to refuse them because when you think about it, some people are in their 20s, have kids with birth problems.
Yes.
They can have, whatever these things that are happening, if it's Down syndrome or if it's autism, it doesn't matter what age it is.
But Hafsa, have you noticed as well that of late, because of people getting into marriage relatively later in life, we are getting a lot more complications that we are not, especially in the African community, in the Black community. There were particular cases like, for example, Down syndrome, they were not very common. Not like they were not there, but they were not very common. You are getting a lot of these, and some doctors are sort of saying probably this has to. I've actually seen a Dr. Kalema who has just joined us. Thank you very much, Dr. Kalema. I'll be coming to you to hear medical explanation to this.
I think those things were there, but when a kid was born with some kind of birth defect, you're ostracized and you're pushed to the side. It's like nobody else wants to know who you are. And it is a kid born in a family and everybody else is fine. There's always that one kid. Yeah. And we never knew what ADHD was when we were growing. And today, a kid is very hyperactive. Then they give you a label, that's ADHD. Yeah. But someone born in their 20s can have a kid with those problems. And then someone who has kids later on in life, like I said, here in the US, they'll tell you over 35-year-old. Your advanced maternal age. So how old is too old? I think it's that's a good question. I really don't know.
I love the try.
I honestly, I don't know. I had my second last born. Yeah. I had between my third born and my second born is 11 years.
Right. Oh, okay. Yes.
And he's 11 years. So I had her later on in life. But like I told you, they wanted to do the test and all that. And then I had my baby when I was 43. And again, all the tests. Oh my goodness, the doctors were, I had round-the-clock appointments simply because I was labeled old.
Now, Hasfa, I think you raised a point that I cannot miss to tap into, which is 11 years old, between 11 years gap between your second last child and the child before that. How did that feel? Did you have to relearn things? Did you actually start learning all over? Because 11 years is a long time. I was thinking about 7 years and we were struggling. So 11 years is really, really too long. Did you not feel like the mother of 64 now?
Yeah, I think it is too long. But when you're a mother, it just kicks in. The instincts as a mother would just kick in, when they're hungry. But I mean, you're at the stage whereby you don't fast as much as you used to anymore. They fall, you say, she'll get up, she'll be all right. But I mean, it takes a toll on you because now you're not as young as you used to be. You can't go and take them to all these kids' places because you can't stand listening to the noise.
So how old is too old to have a child? Because you said the last time you wanted one.
I don't know, maybe over 45. I
don't know. So let's open the conversation much wider. Then Ryan, I think, had said, please, Sheikh, don't compare those things to today. I was talking about the Prophet Sallallahu marrying Khadija radiallahu anha at 40, and she had 6 children of the 7 children that the Prophet had after 40 years. But Murshid Abdullah comes in to say, but his blessings aren't limited to only those that came before us, which means we can still be there. Laila Kadu comes back, Naenga 35 or Korachi Mulepa what? Hadia Bekawesa says, you are only as old as you feel. Well, this is the conversation. It is come. Let's talk with me, KASSIM KAYIRA, live here on 75W Radio, as well as Umma Connect on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. Let us actually widen out the conversation now, bringing in new people. I've seen so many new people that have joined the conversation tonight, and I'll just be tapping onto you just to hear if you've had any children probably later in life and what that has meant. I've been hearing a lot from the women. I think it's time to tap onto the man. Musa Rugemwa, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome to the conversation.
My take on this.
Yeah. How old is too old?
Yes. Hmm?
How old is too old?
I think with all the technology and all the medication and all the scientific improvements lately, nowadays, there is no age limit, to be honest with you, because I've seen ladies as old as as young as 50 having kids.
Are you trying to be polite by saying as young as 50?
Exactly, and nowadays going by the advice we are getting from Sheikh Salim Bossa, saying that we should try to marry. The Mathna and the third one, we try to to go for advanced ages. So I think that's where we're heading to. Especially nowadays that people are interested in a mature woman who is working and self-sufficient, especially if you're going for the second one. I think that is something which we should now consider highly. The fact that we are now going to start seeing a trend of women who want to first of all build their career during their younger age, and then try to settle down much later in life.
But what would you say, for example, to someone who said that it is very selfish to have children at a later age? Actually, I remember one incident where I was in London around Elephant and Castle, and bus 53 was coming in. This man came pushing a pram. Actually, he was almost dropping dead. He was probably in his late 60s, going into the 70s, running with the pram with a baby. He most likely got from number 2, as you say. That was my supposition. But I was thinking, to this point, actually look at, I wondered now probably how old or how young the wife was. You don't get to provide probably the kind of care and love that you would have given if you had done it.
But Sheikh KAYIRA, are we not getting so biased towards ladies? Because it looks like so far everyone who has contributed, most of those who have contributed so far, they're getting so biased towards ladies. How about we men? What? How about us?
Men don't age, I think. Men, like I said, my father actually died when he was 81, and at that age he actually left twins. At that age, he was still that very active. Musa Rugemwa, thank you very much. So maybe just before you go, just how old is too old to travel?
No, not put an age limit, but nowadays, nowadays I would say someone at least would stretch it up to 50.
Yeah, 50 is the old age for you, according to you. I saw Mariam, Texas. Disappeared. Mariam, Texas, if you can unmute yourself, please. Mariam, Texas, it looks like you had a point that was burning. Welcome to the conversation.
No, it wasn't. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'm sorry, I just joined and I'm still trying
You're still getting the temperature, picking up the temperature.
Yes.
Well, the temperature is already
was by mistake.
But probably you have the view as well. Because
No, but
Hajara is seriously saying we are being very judgmental. Why actually don't we take her while you settle in? Mariam, I'll be coming back to you. Let's go to Hajara and hear. She's already accusing us of being judgmental. Hajara, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much.
We apologize for being judgmental. How are we being judgmental on this?
No, I just said you're being judgmental about the story you're saying about an old man who was 60. 60 is too young for a man. And
60 is too young.
Yeah, I think it was just based on assumption, because perhaps he was pushing that buggy for his daughter. Perhaps he was pushing his grandchild.
Fair enough.
However, having a baby at that age, if you're still strong enough, I think I don't see why not.
How do you judge? How do you judge the strong enough?
This can be, let's not make one size fits all, because it all depends on, I joined late, but I'm assuming that the conversation was two grown-ups who kind of maybe perhaps had a child accidentally. So if that was the case, then, and they didn't want that child, that's a different case altogether, but they wanted that child. And if somebody wants the child, I'm going to go and put the cast a wider net. I know these are celebrities, but because they have the money and all that. But look at Celine Dion. She had twins. Twins. Yes. How old was she when she had those twins? So you can see she could afford it. If somebody can afford it, why not? Right. And when you look at things proven scientifically, I've worked in the health and social care system for some time, and there was an experiment. It was a TV show as well, where it showed that where they got children mixed with the elderly. Yeah. And these are people who are not active, who are given up, kind of. I'm not going to be true to what the documentary was, but it was something similar. And it showed that their health and their well-being, their engagement improved for the I think there were 2 weeks that they kept bringing kids from nursery schools to hang around them. So it all depends on how active that individual is willing to be involved with their societal community. Yes. But I believe having a child and can make somebody who would have given up, be more active, because those kids will make
get back to life. So Hajar, would you marry a 60-year-old since they are too young for a man?
Why not?
Good.
If he can give me all the servicing that I need as an individual, if he is capable and I'm capable, why not? So just putting age out there, it's kind of, I don't know, sexist or something like that. Because I'm not saying
I feel you. I feel you. I'm just wondering, because when it comes to the issue of compatibility, because several issues have come up. People have discussed the issue of having the time to be with the children, being able to be playful with the children. Whether it does not narrow down to selfishness, depending though on the circumstances, because we cannot actually sweep every house with the same broom, because there might be mitigating situations. Probably someone was in a relationship for a long time. They never had a chance to have a child. They go into a new relationship, and that's the likelihood that they are going to have a child. So regardless of the age, it might be that that's the right time to be able to do that. And you mentioned the issue of affordability, but affordability in comparison or as opposed to the issue of the interest of the children. At that age, for example, the 64-year-old that we are talking about now, are the interests of the child or the children, in this particular case, the twins, are they really taken care of as a result of them having?
It's actually at that age that you will count on a parent to be present. They're at the age of retirement. They're not chasing after careers. This is still an assumption, because I'm speaking in inverted commas. Because if somebody is 65, and let me hope that we're just casting the net with European countries or Western countries, because in Uganda it will be a different case altogether. But that will be age where somebody wants to slow down a little bit, and a father will count on the mother to be present. She'll stop chasing her career, and the father will be present as well, or they'll cut down on their working hours because they've got something new to focus their attention on. So,
Hajara, before I let you go, quite often when we have children, the idea is you want to see these children grow up, get married, and at the age of 60, for example, which is what we are talking about. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ referred to that age when you get to 60. He used the word Allah. You are in the captivity of God, not that at any other age you are not. But in this particular window here, he says, my generation will live between 60 and 70. For someone to sort of go into that, would you dream about the possibility of you ever getting a chance to see your child get married, graduate, for example, counting those years?
What I say is let us not lament for split milk, because we're all believers here.
Yes, we are.
You deal with the here and the now. So, of course, you would want to be present for when your kids are going to get married. But you don't know if you will live in even for tomorrow. So you have to appreciate what you've got at the time you've got it. So you can only dream to see tomorrow. But all that is in God's hands. So
thank you. Thank you very, very much, Hajara. And Musa Rugema says, Umwana wechikate nyuma. Rahila, I think that's a new guest into the conversation. Not a name I'm very used to. Hasfa Kasuja says, well said, Hajara Bikawe says, back fighting in the chat room. Even when you have them in the 20s, you are not guaranteed to marry or get married. Again, it is thrown back to Qadar. Rahila, if you can unmute yourself, please. Rahila. I'll move to Hadija Nsanja. Hadija, welcome to the conversation. You are not a regular here as well. With the names, I can always see the faces quite quickly. Assalamu alaikum. Hadija? Hadija Nsanja, if you can unmute yourself, please. I'll look for some of the men as well. I see Farida Zabali. Is it Farida or Farida Zabali? Farida, can you unmute yourself, please? Oh, the conversation is going quite quiet. I need some hands up. Just to remind you, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, KASSIM, KAYIRA, live here on 75W Radio. Ismail Mugisha, I can see you there. I'm trying to get some of the men's voices here, just to hear your take on this particular story. Ismail Mugisha, welcome to the conversation. Assalamu alaikum. Suddenly, is he unmutable? Ismail Mugisha, can you unmute yourself, please? I'll go to Imran Shaban while we get Ismail Mugisha. Imran Shaban, so many new faces, so many new names to the conversation here. Imran, are you there? Are you able to speak? Imran Shaban, if you can just press that unmute button, please. I've asked you to unmute. Oh, subhanallah, people have gone quiet all of a sudden. Imran is there. Yes, Imran, salamu alaikum. Imran, are you there? Hello, Imran. Oh, your mic seems like it's playing up. Subhanallah. Let's try. Ummu Tahani, I'll come to you now. Ummu Tahani, salamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I'm sure you've been listening in the conversations now, and probably I'll just start with straight to the question. How old is too old?
I don't think there is an age, to be honest. I don't think there is a old, too old. As long as you've been blessed to become a parent, then that's that. That's, I don't think we choose to be parents, rather we're chosen, because there can be someone very young and never have a child. And then you've got someone like this lady at 60 odd and she's had twins. So I don't think you can put age on it. I really don't. And I don't think it's right even. If your body has enabled you to get that, then that's within your right. I don't think that age really should be a factor as such.
But I think age it's difficult not to put age to this, simply because, if you look, let's start, for example, from an Islamic perspective. The Prophet ﷺ says, Ayyuha Shabab, addressing the young people, and says, oh young people, man istata'a minkumul ba'a, whoever has the capacity to pay, to get married, that is financial and physical ability,
So tell me, was there not a prophet that was quite elderly and had a child in his old age, or his wife had a child in their old age?
Yes, we have two prophets actually, Zachariah alayhi salam and Ibrahim alayhi salam. Both had children in old age. But you can hear that actually it was an exception, because if you see the desperation,
but there's always going to be
the desperation in their plea to God.
There's always going to be an exception. Not very many women are going to be able to have children at 60 plus. So there's always going to be an exception, and each person's life and circumstances are going to dictate how and when they're going to have children. So one time for someone, it might be suitable for them to have it at 30, younger or whatnot. Another person, they can have it when they're older. You may turn around and say, oh, but she's got a 42-year-old son. So what?
But look at the 42-year-old now looking at the twins who are hardly, any months.
It happens, and it's happened. And I don't think it's for any of us to turn around and be like, oh, you're too old. She's living in it. She's made her bed.
Oh my God. But is it fair on the children though? Because sometimes that's where someone, I think it was Ryan at the start, who said it is selfish to have children at that late age.
What I will say is, recently, sadly, I've just come to know that one of my friends' husband has passed away. So again, and he was young, he was under 40. So it doesn't, again, there's no guarantee having them young that you're going to be around, like some people have already said. And I think as long as there's going to be love in that family, or, they're going to be able to provide for them in their best capacity, that's all that really matters. There's going to be some people that are young and have children and not be able to care for them.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Hamima.
Thanks.
So still, you failed to answer the question in terms of how old is too old to have a child.
Yeah, there's no number. As long as you can reproduce and your body's able, then you're able.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Farida Bitiana, all the way in the United States. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, Farida.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey, you've been listening in. I'd like to hear your own take. First of all, your reaction. Ya Rabbil Alamin. Ngatusubidwa okuwulira endowooza yo. Toyina amuna
inshallah.
Teweekanzeemu ng'owulidde w'emyaka 64.
Tewali buzibu. Tewali buzibu. Allah wakuweredde ng'ogendera ng'otwalira kyaba kuwadde, alhamdulillah.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much, Farida.
Barakallahu fikum.
Okay, Safina. Safina, I can see in the chat room while we're getting Safina to come on. Another conversation going on here, just in terms of responsibility. I just Sarah says, actually, I've seen many families whose fathers have had children in their old age, leaving the responsibility of paying school fees, amongst other things, to older children. Farida, are you still there? I think there was a bleeding into the conversation. Yeah, I just Sarah was saying, actually, I've seen many families whose fathers have had children in their old age, leaving the responsibility of paying school fees, amongst other things, to their older children. We should have children in our youthful years when we can provide for them. I'm sure there was something now, it was Hajab who was saying that if you have them in their 20s, you can still fail to pay for them. And Umutahani comes back to say, I've seen many fathers have them in their youth and still not provide for them financially or even emotionally. Yes, Ismail Mugisha, are you there now? Ismail Mugisha? And still trying Farida Zabali as well. Farida, are you there? Wanted to hear from some of the new voices. Maz is there. Maz, welcome to the conversation. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, Maz, are you there?
Wa alaikum salam, Shay.
How are you? Yes, I got you. I caught you off guard. But I mean, tonight we are having this interesting conversation around how old is too old to have children. 64-year-old just had twins. Last born, who the twins follow, is 42 years old. Your take?
Shay, story so you money bulungi, but I think when joining it, I've never Allah wa kuwerede. Allah wa kuwerede wa kuwerede. Nze siri mufumbo naye ntuse mu myaka abantu gye bagamba oba olina okufumbirwa kuba wonootuuka myaka bwe giti ogenda kubeera ng'olina obuzibu okuzaala and stuff.
Oganye buganye batannalabika.
Allah tannamuleeta, that's the issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, so but you still can't order mu panic yonna as a result of that, given abantu kye bagaa nti mu myaka egyo olina okuba nti ogenze. Do you feel any panic?
I actually don't. Kubanga neteekamu sheeki nti Allah wamperedde waba mperedde kubanga ne wenfumbirwa kati nga Allah teyaba ntegekera sigenda papa. So ne wempapa oba ne wendwawo nga Allah teyaba era tekigenda kupapa naye waba ateeka alhamdulillah.
So answer you to the question, how old is too old is?
How old is too old? There's no age limit. I don't think scientifically there is an age limit. Naye wabaye achayagadde nga achapuchinga Allah waba asazewo kuma waba muwadde.
Okay. Barakallahu fikum, Mariam. Thank you very much. Lorraine, welcome to the conversation. We are live on 75W Radio. The program is Come, Let's Talk. With me, KASSIM KAYIRA, our global community conversation. Lorraine, your take, I'm sure you're burning now, having had that. What doctors are saying is that after 40, your eggs are old, and if we are kids, they might be deformed with Down syndrome and the like. Lorraine, your take, please.
Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Missed that. I missed that bit.
You missed what bit?
The last bit, you were not
clear.
I
was saying the doctors, according to Safina in the chat room, she's saying what doctors are saying is that after 40 years of age, your eggs, women's eggs are old, and if we are to have kids, they might be deformed with Down syndrome and the like. But it's about your own take. How old is too old to have a child?
Okay, my take is it's never too late to get to get children. The oldest person to give birth was in Spain actually in 2006, and they were twins, aged 66 years of age. So I think it's never too late to have children. I'll explain. First of all, I'll give you the scenario. My mother had her first child at 14, right? She's now 61 years of age. She had her last child at 37, and that's our youngest. That's my youngest sister is 24, but she's just 2 years older than my first daughter.
Right.
Yeah. Then my late grandfather fathered a child at the age of 93 years of age. He died at 103.
Wow.
And the son is just 1 year older than my other daughter, who is 9.
Lorraine, if you don't mind, where are you from?
I'm from Uganda.
Uganda, okay. Well, that's fine. I was just thinking genetically because such stories are always.
It's a mixed heritage, but yes, I've got heritage from Uganda too. So really and truly, it's never too old to get children.
Could it be though that that's an older generation, that's an older breed? Because today's breed, we look like we are weaker. We've been feeding so much on genetically modified foods and less of the vegetables that the grandfathers did have.
I doubt that, because I can still give birth. If you're still menstruating, you can still give birth. Chances are.
How about the risks though, as according to the doctor?
Say that again.
How about the risks involved? You know, the older you get, say after 40, the chances of your own health being at risk, but also the health of the child, the unborn child, the likelihood that they would be born with deformities.
I think it depends on the person, to be honest with you, because we've seen people older than 35 or 40 giving birth to healthy babies. So really and truly, it depends on the person and how much their body can manage or can take on.
Your own personal story actually, I think, is quite powerful. It fits very well into tonight's conversation and probably actually now we should take a leaf in terms of what you're saying about the issue of age. But what would you say to the person who says there's the selfishness? Because with the children, probably at 60, 70, you are actually beginning to look after the grandkids and the grandchildren from your own children. To imagine that you're having children at that particular age, is it not stretching it a bit too far?
I don't think it's selfish because you do not know the circumstances of that person or that couple. Really and truly, like somebody said earlier on, that it may have been they were just having fun, a little bit of fun, and then it happened. Obviously, when you're at that age, it doesn't necessarily mean that your ovaries have disappeared completely. There may be one that's left out of a million. So that one may have been fertilized and then things happened. So science can explain that. I'm not sure what happened, but yeah.
we are definitely not sure what happened. Quite often, these are biological accidents because it's rare, except in the case of even with IVF. People just go and try, and then things happen. It's difficult to imagine that someone goes to bed and says, "Tonight we are making a baby." Yeah, so it's down to God. But I mean, from a religious perspective, that's sort of understandable. But from the social, the social, I'm trying to find the appropriate word that actually might use. Given today's circumstances and how people are living their lives, the fact that the society can even talk about such, like with our sort of social media driven lifestyles, people having a say about, what someone should and shouldn't do. Is it within our rights to be able to comment on that, especially as a community, as a society?
Is it within our rights to do what?
Yeah, to comment on whether someone whether it's their right to have children at a later age or not. Is it something that we should be bothered about as a community, as a society?
Of course, it's something we need to investigate. It's a miracle one. There could be explanations that as to what type of food they eat, because I understand most people from West Africa, especially ladies, have their babies at a very late, like at a late stage. Let's say that. So maybe it could be the food that they are eating, or it could be something. It could be something that's related to where they come from, or where they live, or the environment. It could be any of those things.
Well, I will tell you that probably you know that, but West Africa is one of the places. It is the place, actually. It's not one of the places, but it's the place with the biggest number of twins. And they were putting that down to yams, that they eat a lot of yams, and probably that has something to do with getting twins. Thank you very much, Lorraine, for your contribution. Thank you very much. Let's just spread out the conversation. I would wish to have as many men actually probably contributing to this. Haja Bekawesa, all the way in the United States, you have been listening into the conversation and even have commented. I'd like to get your own take. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Now, you are hearing this entire halabalu surrounding the hula surrounding how old is too old to have a child.
Yeah, okay, my contribution is going to be in form of a question. I mean, in kind of trying to counteract that same question. For starters, I believe, kids are a blessing from Allah. Allah decides who has kids and who doesn't, and if he wishes to create, a kid will be created. So on that, if say there is a limit to how old somebody is supposed to have kids, for example, a man, if say I'm going into intercourse, are there certain modes that I'm going to go into in this particular mode that I'm going to go have intercourse with the intention to have kids, and the other time where I'm going to go into intercourse when I'm trying not to have kids? I mean, leave alone the idea of contraceptives, condoms and everything. How am I supposed to say enjoy, myself, enjoy the intercourse if at all I'm on tension as okay, I'm so worried that I'm going to have kids? So I don't believe that there should be, I mean, if Allah blesses you and kids come, alhamdulillah. Yeah, that's my
then how old would you think we would be appropriate? Because while it's a blessing from God, I mean, let's be realistic, let's be honest. leaving it too late sometimes. I mean, one, your eggs as well, your eggs will weaken it. For the woman, for example, the likelihood, I mean, it has been proven. It's not like it's being made up. There are exceptions, but as a general rule, as a rule of thumb, you find that the older one gets, the more likely the complication is going to come around, pertaining to the pregnancy or even being able to bear children. For a man, yes, you've heard about a 91-year-old who actually had children. I've spoken about my own dad, may Allah bless him, at 81, who could still fire twins. And so there's that. But with these children who we've never even known their dad, because he died when they were literally like 1 year old and they never got a chance. And while death can occur, at this particular window, even from a religious perspective, we've had the Prophet ﷺ saying clearly, my generation will live between 60 and 70. Within that window, to have children, if you didn't have children before, perfectly brought, understandable. But if you've had children and you still continue to have children around that time, would it not constitute the selfishness that has been mentioned?
So I still go back to my question: is that, am I supposed to stop having intercourse at a particular age because I'm worried about having kids? Or if I still have to have, intercourse, do I go in a certain mode that, okay, now, I'm on the age, I don't want to have kids, so what am I supposed to do? Doing that,
Are you a lawyer by any chance, Hajar?
No. Journalistic background.
You've gone down the route of asking a question with a question which, well, let's put this question to Nuriat Nabiwande. Nuriat, you are another new face in the conversation. Welcome to the conversation. And you've been listening in. Nuriat, are you able to speak? If you can unmute yourself, please. Nuriat. Okay, I think Nuriat is struggling where she is. I'll go to Habiba. Habiba, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, Habiba. No, unable to come in. The chat room has also gone quiet pretty well. Oh, I've got my Sheikh here, Sheikh Nasser Kab, all the way from the Netherlands. Hello, Sheikh Nasser, assalamu alaikum. Nasser Kab, Chinene. Hello, Nasser Kab. Hey, Rabbi, the conversation is going quiet. I don't want to get cool. I can see Jamila. Safina, are you able to speak? Actually, you are unmuted. Safina, are you there?
Yes.
Hello, Safina.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. I could see actually that you are unmuted, but I couldn't hear you speak. Salaam alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey, thank you very much for joining the conversation. I've seen a few pointers that you put in the chat room. I'd rather hear it straight from you. You are saying
and I was about to type something too, because honestly speaking, for women, best case scenario for us is to have kids a little bit earlier.
Right.
When people talk about the selfish thing, is because sometimes when you're giving birth to children, you always worry about the outcome. True, Allah guides us and blesses us in whichever way. Yeah. But we also need to have our own, we need to be thinking in terms of the science and genetics of our bodies. If you think about it, because if we say between 14 and 38, when you go to hospital and say you're pregnant, the doctors place you on high risk and you have to be checking in every 2 weeks just to be sure. So this is why it's better, if possible, have your kids a little bit early. But by Allah, if it's not possible, because at least with science now, because if you hear people 60 giving birth, that's science. They're not having the kids the natural way. That's science helping matters. So that's okay. But then the issue at hand is, bringing up kids is a big thing. You need to be part of their lives, go to their schools. Sometimes say they have a sports event, and then they're saying the parents are versing.
Now imagine 65-year-old parent.
Getting into that sack to run in the sack.
Exactly.
I can imagine that picture.
It won't be possible. Even the kids themselves will feel uncomfortable. I've seen a kid, I met a mom who I thought was the grandma. Yes. And I have a feeling the kid felt bad addressing the mom as the grandma. So it makes the kids feel out of place. We've had, like back in Uganda, a parent comes to visit and the kid says, "That's my auntie." They don't want to acknowledge you as their parent. So that's aside. But on a serious note, because when you give birth to kids, it's at a whole time affair. You're looking after these kids for a long time, and you're like, if they get to 18 and maybe 22, at least they've gone to university. Now it's time to focus on yourself. Now imagine in that period, you're thinking you're going to focus on yourself and your husband, then you're having another child. So that takes you back into nappies, kids crying at night. It's a big ball game. But we are saying, by Allah, if it's possible, it's okay. But if you can just have the kids a little bit early. Then the other thing too is, I think I've summarized it in all, because I was thinking you have your kids early, then you can have time to focus on yourselves as the parents. In fact, for most women, they know if you have your kids early, your body is bound to get back into shape. Yet if you're a little bit older, the more kids you have, the more you lose it completely. And
the more you break apart.
Exactly. And it makes you feel so horrible about yourself. So
how would you respond? How would you respond to someone in the chat room who is saying that is mere speculation about how kids might feel about their older parents?
No, we've seen this. This is a fact. By the way, I've been a teacher for 19 years. So I know what I'm talking about. A parent comes and the kid doesn't feel comfortable acknowledging them as their parent. Okay, in fact, sometimes a parent comes, sits around, and the kid refuses to come down. They are hiding from the parent.
Yes.
They'd rather the parent leaves the stuff. They'd rather parent and then the kid comes later and picks the stuff up. Okay. So I've seen that.
iPhone is open. You are hearing Safina. Talk to Safina about your own take on this particular situation. What did you do with the conversation? First of all, probably about your own take. You are on.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh. Salam. You've had Safina and the points. Teacher, 19 years, high experience shows children born to parents who are older feel a bit uncomfortable about that. That's her own take. Probably your own take, first of all, to this. How old is too old?
Okay. Well, my take basically, I think, because Oyumuchala wa getting Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To stay on the safe side, I cannot go against her wish or her,
Okay.
But seriously, I think hearing what other contributor just said, and I think we are running ahead of ourselves. I think we are relying on science because what we've been consuming lately is all about science. Science can do this, science proven to do this. But the natural way or naturally, I think, well, men maybe. My uncle had his last son, he was 86, and the son comes out as Mungu Mugage, exactly photocopy. I mean, there was no doubt about it. But women, I think, okay, this is almost a case study. One person basically cannot define the whole, let's say, human race. And if we go back to, if we call it miracle, this is what would be a miracle. So it doesn't, well, you cannot count how many people manage to have children at certain age, let alone, well, okay, we can do research, but women actually, I cannot speak on their behalf, but they know this is a fact. You have to have your children a little bit earlier when your body can still support you in that manner, if I might say. People I'll never be pregnant, but believe in me, I do listen and I read quite a few, and most cases you read about people struggling to get pregnant, but when you dig a little bit deeper, it is all about, most cases, it's to do with the way their lifestyle has been. They've waited and waited and waited and waited. So my take, I can never say like it's never too late to have. I mean, what is too old to have a children? A man, I don't know, but women, maybe we should stick to biology. What biology tells us, in most cases, they should have children a little bit early to have a time for themselves, plus to look after, to bring up healthy children. If you go into that line, in most cases, women, if they have children in later date plus, and they are with men are a bit older, there is always a big chances of having these Down syndrome children. I'm not saying every Down syndrome child, but the study says if you have them late, there is always a good chance of having plus
particular complications, including things like Down syndrome.
Yeah.
Safina, you've just had your husband say.
We are not having, darling. We are not having no more.
I know. We agreed on that already.
What if, and Allah has His ways.
So as I said it earlier, by Allah,
Safina,
if it happens.
Hold on 1 second. Safina, one thing I've found so interesting is, from a religious perspective, one thing that I'm always very careful about these days is saying I can't do A, B, C, D. Because the moment you make a pronouncement like that, it's almost like God decides that is the very next test that He's going to bring to you. I mentioned, I thought we had stopped. We had 5 kids and 4 kids, and we were done. 5 kids, and we thought we were done. And then 7 years later, totally out of the blue, to receive that phone call saying, "I've just come from the hospital. Hello, honey, I've just come from the hospital, and I'm expecting." That's 7 years later, and when you thought, like this was.
And what was your reaction? Be honest.
Well, the African reaction was, is it mine?
I'm not sure. No, but when you come to terms with it and it's yours, how did you feel?
No, it's the shock. Because after 7 years of thinking, now we are growing up, we are just going to look after the kids that we have. To hear that now there's new responsibility of new pampers that you're going to have to handle. And you find the disconnect, you find the struggle, because the other kids have grown up. The 7-year gap is, for you to give attention, because there is need for that special attention for this particular, child who is just coming 7 years away from her siblings. And you have to give particular attention that will have to be different as opposed to this one. Sometimes when you talk from a practical point of view, you start seeing the realities surrounding this. Because just from a generalization point of view, you can just make a sweeping statement and just say there's nothing wrong. But if you think about it, 7 years gap, we are not that old. But already you see the struggle that you're having in terms of availing this particular child, the kind of play. I have to crawl down now, and my daughter goes on my back. And at an age when you're thinking, you are above, you are 7 years away from that, and you have to go back to that. I think these are some of the considerations that you have to be thinking about when we discuss this, beyond just the excitement of someone has just gone in. Safina?
I think we need to divide ourselves into 2 categories, because what I'm getting from the chat,
right. Yeah,
we have people who have been trying from their 20s to have kids and they are failing. That's a different story.
Yes.
In fact, at 40 or 42, if you get the news, the pregnancy test is positive, you'll be overjoyed. But if you've already been having, you already had your children, like the way you're saying it, 4 kids.
Yes.
And you're saying, yeah, that's it. So
then,
truthfully, the kid happened, because right now, when we're in this advanced world, the Western world, the doctors will be clear with you, because I've seen women, in fact, I've had about 3 friends around me in their 40s. One has had 2 miscarriages, and the doctors have told her it's nothing to do with what you've done, but being honest with you, at a particular age, chances of getting a normal child, a normal baby, are so low. Now, the ones who are trying earlier and they're failing, science is also good. They tell us they can take your eggs when they're still really fertile, before they become geriatric, as someone has said in the chat room. They freeze them for you. And then at a later stage, with science still, you get your proper child. So that's my take on that. Because the issue at hand is, if you already have had children, it will be a big shock. A lot of things go into your head. Now we are back to square one. If I'm talking about people in Uganda, we have the element of house helps. In fact, most people have it. If you're having children, quit your job, sit home and look after your kids. Otherwise, you're going to run mad. Now imagine you're thinking, oh, the kids are in school now. I don't have to have a maid at home. And then suddenly, she's pregnant. And then you go back into the cycle.
Asfa, speak to Safina. Safina, thank you very much. Stay there. Asfa wants to speak to you. Oh,
You
and
know,
I can hear
I
now.
hate it when you're I do not defy science.
Was that deliberate
Yes.
to come in with the crying babies?
I'm sorry. I do not defy science at all.
Right.
But I just don't understand that with Allah's will, even someone at 20s, in their 20s, I've worked with so many girls at 20s that had plenty of miscarriages. And just because somebody is over 40, it doesn't mean, because science says that they won't be able to have children. Well, the doctors will say it, but it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. If someone is able to get pregnant over 40, alhamdulillah, but it cannot be a deterrence because the doctors said that when you're at this particular age, your risks are high. Who determines the risks? Who determines the risk that a 20-year-old is going to end up having a child with Down syndrome? And someone who is 40 has completely normal children. Can science explain that?
Yeah,
I do believe in
those
science.
Are sort of the exception, Haspa. Are those the exceptions other than being the rule? Those are the kind of the exceptions other than being the rule. Yeah, as a general rule.
There is a general rule, but I have to also say that our parents had children later on in life, and we never had these issues. You know, they never had issues like this. Now today, everything is all about science. People will have IVF and they still do not get pregnant.
Oh yes, yeah.
People have had numerous IVF, whatever it's called. I'm sorry, I can't remember. But they have had numerous of them, and they're so young, at really a young age, and Allah hasn't blessed them with children. And then you have someone who's 40 or someone who's probably 60 in Kenya, was probably just enjoying a little life, and they got pregnant. And then they got pregnant. You know, what science are you going to tell me? You're going to explain that this 60-year-old woman, you know, because science says ABCD, Allah's will. We have to accept science is there, but what Allah wills will be. And that's what Abeka West was saying as well. So we may believe in science, but if I am 40 and I'm going to say, yes, I'm going to have children, I shouldn't be scared. Oh my God, I'm going to have a child who's 40, who's going to have Down syndrome and all these complications. I refuse to believe that personally. Like I told you, my experience was doctors were telling me, you're probably going to have a child with Down syndrome. Let's do this test. Let's take the amniotic fluid and test it. All these tests are very, very invasive and very dangerous to an unborn child. Very, very dangerous. And
did you take the test or did you refuse it?
no, I refuse it because if Allah's will is to give me a child with Down syndrome, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Noted. Thank you very much. Sanja Hindu, Salaam alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I'm sure you can hear the heated conversation we are having, enjoying it live on 75 W Radio and on Umma Connect on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom. Your take, please, so far.
Sorry, my network is not so good.
We can hear you very well, though.
Okay.
Yes.
Just like the other members have said, I believe at 40 or not, a baby can be born without any complications. So I feel if anything comes in, anyone shouldn't worry about that.
So tujikwateko. Tujikwateko. You know, with the constitution, when they were going to remove the age limit in Uganda.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Why not? You take that chance to have the healthy baby. Why be negative? That's all I think.
I'm just struggling a little bit because I was really hoping to hear some people, because at the start I had a few, but then it looked like the whole conversation now has tilted because it's science, but there's also faith, which is strongly coming in here to look at all the dynamics that are at play. But for example, maybe let me put this question to you, Hindu. This woman in Kenya who has become the basis of our conversation is 64 years old. Her last born is 42 years old. Between the 42 years old, she's had now twins. After, with the 42, that's about 22 years later. 22 years later, she's had the twins who have come in. Either accidentally or not, we don't know the details of that. I wish we had. But 22 years later, there are these twins who have been born. You don't see anything wrong with that.
If they come in when they are healthy, why not? I don't think.
With the brother who is 42 years old.
Yes.
the brother.
The brother has already gone for other programs, and then there are babies coming in, so the house is back to normal.
Thank you very much, Hindu. Musa Rogemwa is back. Thank you, Barakallahu fikum, Hindu. And I'll come to Stella as well, who has joined us later into the conversation. We'll actually go to Sheikh Amregia. Musa Rogemwa, you have the
Sheikh KAYIRA, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, mine is a question, just to add the small flavor to the conversation. I mean, at some point, what's the religious, okay. I'll say, you as a mullah or as a sheikh, what's your opinion on a couple, on a person who intentionally chooses not to have kids until a later age, until later age in life?
Later age being
yeah. Is there any?
No, I laid out what the prophet's advice was, and sometimes through these prophetic guidances, although they do not come directly, by implication you can see what it means. He came, the Prophet ﷺ, and addressed the young people and said, Ya ayyuha shabab, O young people, man istata'a minkumul ba', whoever has the means, has the capacity, both the physical, the physiological, the financial means, falyatazawwaj. Let them get married. Actually, in another explanation, he sort of says, this will be good for your faith. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِيعْ, and whoever does not have the physiological, the physical, financial means, فَلْيَصُومْ, let them continue fasting. Why? Because it says that will actually take charge, control your sort of desires, your bodily desires will be controlled by fasting, because when you fast, your body actually weakens, and therefore the ability to be sharp and think things in terms of that line becomes less. But the point was, this was an address to the young people. And he made sure he actually, he communicated that. In other instances, he would talk about the urging men, for example, to marry widows who have just sort of lost their husbands, not in later age, but quite often you'd find that young people would die in battle, they would die of disease and so on, and the women would be there. There are women who are married like 4 or 5 times within Islamic history that you can actually have a record of that. Essence being, getting married young, you are more energetic, you are at your best in your youthhood. If it gets to a point where now old age has set in and then you don't have a choice, that's a different story. But in instances, even practically, when you see, for example, when the Prophet ﷺ, his daughter Fatima, when she became of age, marriageable age, his companions, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, his best friend, who had actually was his father-in-law in an instance because he gave him Aisha, his daughter, Umar, Uthman, all of them came and tried to propose to marry Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet did not allow any of these three because they were close in age with him. The Prophet ﷺ was only 2 years older than Abu Bakr, 2 years older than Uthman, than Omar. They were within the same age bracket. And Ali was 10 years younger than the Prophet. He chose Ali. Of course, there might have been other reasons that informed his decision, but this was fundamental because you get a young person getting married to a young person. This was crucial. Why let them start having children at that particular age? So there are things that are not directly spoken about, but by implication, you can see them, like from a religious perspective. And therefore, for someone to choose deliberately to hold, to hold not having children until a later date, that might actually constitute a sin in some instances. It does not come outrightly, but you might find that because the idea of marriage is procreation. If you're going to bar procreation to a later date, a date at which you do not have an appointment with God, you don't know how long you're going to live. For you to postpone it might actually be creating the risk of the possibility that you might actually live without having the children. The panic sometimes comes where you are now desperate to have children, and then you are seeing the age, the clock now coming in. Like we have found ourselves in a situation where people are spending more time in school, especially women, going for career development, and in staying in careers, they have lost out time that would have been allowing them to be able to set up homes and have children. So the pressure now comes in the moment you get to 35, and it's external pressures. Internally, the person starts feeling the pressure or taking the pressure because externally there is a lot of push and pull, and that creates the panic. So from a religious perspective, I think the earlier you go in, the better. Although, of course, circumstances now might dictate, in which case, in case there are circumstances, the Sharia rule is very clear. In situations where you have a mitigating situation, then the rules change. For example, you are supposed to pray in time. But if you are on a journey or unable to pray in the circumstances that you are in, then you can postpone the prayer. But make sure that you pray. So because of those circumstances, they come to determine how you deal with that particular situation. So in simple terms, Baramusa, that's what I would say, that it's best to have it. For couples like Hajat Naima asks in the chat room, who choose totally not to have children, then that is going against the whole essence of marriage, because the essence of marriage is procreation. Two essences. وَجَعْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. Allah created love and compassion. Now, this love, the product of love, is procreation. The product of compassion is, nurturing yourself, so being there for each other. I don't know what's happening.
Thank you very much.
You are back. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I would say, yeah. But the other thing I was gonna add, I think you've highlighted it too. Is it? I was going to ask you, but if I choose, or if me as a man or a lady, I choose not to have kids at all, and I just choose to adopt. I just choose to take the adoption road.
Yes. Well, adoption route, if you do not have the means, because now there might be religious rulings regarding that, but adoption in the context of, I'm sure you know, the Islamic ruling on adoption. It's not the modern system where you adopt a child, they take on your name and they can inherit even your property. In Islam, that does not happen. While we can foster, we cannot adopt. Adoption in Islam is not allowed, because adoption in the sense where a child will take on your name, the Sharia, one of the basic principles of protection is protecting lineage, to make sure no blood mixes with the wrong blood. So in other words, it becomes wrong blood because it is not your blood. But you can foster, you can look after an orphan or a child from outside, you can pick them up, you can give them even your wealth when you are still alive, but they cannot inherit your property rightfully as your children. Because once you adopt in the modern sense, in the secular sense, the child takes on your name and they can own everything that you have. But in the Islamic sense, we do not have adoption. So if you choose to adopt as a matter of choice, closing on the gap, because there are instances, for example, John or Yahya alayhi salam was Yahya alayhi salam never had children. Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, never had children. He was not even married. Actually, part of the story is Jesus will come back before the end of time, and part of what he'll come to do is get married and probably have children. And that is over the 7 years that he will come back, because he spent 33 years on earth. He will come back for another 7 to make 40, which is the prophetic age. So over the 7 years, he'll come, get married, get a child. Yahya never got married, and that was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that even the basis of our father was almost based or built around John or Yahya, not Jesus, because his, again, circumstances, because he was Masih, he was always on the move, never got to settle to have a family. But I think that is now divulging, although of course I think it touches on the basic aspects regarding this particular situation. I see Maz with her hands on her head. Today I have heard of men and women who make love with intention of making a baby. Some men and women have found it very stressful and has taken away the pleasure in their love making. Yes, especially once you make it a condition, then yes. Ajat Sarah, that's why I said different people have different intentions when they choose to engage in intercourse with regards to your point. And that's Haj Abe West. You can keep that conversation going, both in the chat room or online on Facebook, or actually raise your hand up and we will get talking. Well, nearly getting there. It's about 25 minutes to go, and in a very beautiful conversation with a lot of controversy sometimes surrounding where we are at. Stella, I come to you. Good evening. Hi, Stella.
Oh, hello, hi everyone. Hi.
Hello there. How are you today?
I'm okay, thank you.
Yes, you've been listening into the conversation. You came in midway, but I'm sure you've picked up the gist of the conversation. Your own take, please.
Yeah, I'm 47, but I would like to have another baby if given the chance.
Now we're talking.
I'm not. For some reason, I have faith that it will be a healthy baby if it comes. I don't know why I never think about those things, but Down syndrome, is it spina bifida or what? For some reason, I know with Stella's baby, it will be healthy.
Inshallah.
Yeah, But I have a son already. He's 16. He's gonna be 17. And yeah, for some reason, I was not able to have one in between him and now, but I wouldn't mind having another one, is all I can say. But having said that, I'm not prepared to go for IVF. I'm not prepared to go for any artificial things. If it happens naturally, it will happen. If it doesn't, that's God's way. That's what he has planned.
So you don't think there should be any limit in terms of age? You're not worried.
Not like me. I feel healthy. I feel energetic. I feel, because I've seen young girls and young men, young couples who cannot even look after their children. They are young enough, they're energetic, but they cannot look after them. They cannot guide them. They are just in their own world, misbehaving. Some are caught up in their careers. They only think about their careers. Children are neglected. So if an elderly, a much older person like me can be willing to look after the child, I don't see what's wrong with that. Yeah, I don't see, if you can look after the baby, you just look after it.
How about now the idea that probably at 47, well, probably now you should be looking after your grandchildren, probably. So instead of going back into the nappies by your own self.
So what I missed that bit, sorry.
No, I was saying the view that there was the view that at that age, probably, like going 47, probably you would be looking, well, your 17-year-old now will be 19 soon and 20, probably get married. Probably, the gap between your son and the next child, if they happen, is too huge that probably that would constitute a grandchild and not your own child.
No, as long as, like I said, as long as you can love the child, look after it, take good, just be responsible. That's, to me, that's what matters most, really.
Do you think you would be able to do whatever you've done for the 17-year-old?
Oh yes, I would. Because like in my family, I'm the eldest. The gap between me and our last born is about 20 years. I helped look at, to me, it's not an issue. It does not worry me at all.
Ryan here is saying in the chat room that, wait, Sister Stella, when you get into the labor ward at your age and you realize that suddenly the energy you think you're feeling is not enough to take you through.
Well, I don't know. The doctors, I'm sure, would help come in. That's their job, or the midwives. Someone will help.
Feeling is one thing and reality is another.
That's true, though. That's true. Yes.
All right. Okay. All the best, Stella. I hope you'll invite us to see as you're getting a new baby, God willing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stella. Mrs. B, if you can unmute yourself, please. We are almost getting to wrap up now. Very interesting conversation, by the way. The numbers actually here, don't matter. We are 29, and the kind of conversation we're having, 100 people might not be able to have it. You are live on 75W Radio and on Umma Connect, on Facebook, on Zoom, and on YouTube, where we're streaming live. Well, very interesting conversation going on here. On Facebook, actually, there have been loads of comments, again, sort of coming in here, strongly speaking, well, for or against, but many are sort of saying at 64, to be honest, well, someone ought to be elsewhere now, not in the labor ward. And here, 1 second. Seeing this, yeah, she's not a record breaker, says Diana Sempeva. In India, 73-year-old had a baby boy. Yeah, got that. Is this biologically even possible? 64 and still have a child? Yes, it has been definitely proven. No need even of IVF. It's just the straight thing. Nasiba Nachiemba says the rate at which children grow no longer worry me of when to have children. It's anytime Allah blesses you with one, just go for it. Halima Sarah says 64 years there. Then when do menopauses begin? Actually, now probably that's the question, because I've seen people going, for example, for Hajj, and during the time of Hajj, women can take some medication to postpone their periods so that they don't go into their periods while they are in Hajj, because once they go into their P's, it means they cannot complete the Hajj activities. Is it possible to postpone menopause? Probably the ladies, you can tell us. Has science reached that point that it can actually be postponed? Anyone who can help us understand that? I guess Sarah here says in the case of us, women find it uncomfortable and embarrassing when we have children when they are over 30 years themselves. I think I would struggle too if my mom did. Mrs. B, are you there? Mrs. B? Mrs. B, can you unmute yourself, please? Oh, Farida Zabari, I've been trying to get you from the start of the conversation so that we can spread out a little bit. Farida, are you there? Finally. Farida, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Hey, it's very nice to have you. I've been trying to get you from the start of the conversation. Your own take.
Yeah, for me, anytime God blesses you, child, you just, you just take it. You just be happy that He has blessed you with that child. Yeah.
But someone was asking.
Yeah, or anytime. I don't have any problem with that. 64, any age.
Yes.
If God's will, then I think it's okay. I don't see any problem with that.
Are we able to postpone menopause? Like they can postpone periods, for example? Has science taken us there? Because today we've been talking too much about that. Is it possible to push menopause? Because we normally would be thinking about 50, 55 that women would have had their menopause. This one at 64 and is still actively, able to have a child. Is it possible to postpone?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know whether it's possible to postpone menopause. I don't know about that. But this lady, 64, maybe she had even already had her menopause, but it just happened. God just gave her a child.
Is it possible to come out of menopause?
So I don't think she was at 64. She was still having her periods. I don't think so. I think it just happened even after menopause that God happened to give her a child.
All right. Well, it's not possible. Now, not being a woman now, it becomes difficult.
Pardon?
I'm saying, well, it's a miracle, as you say, because I wouldn't imagine someone coming out of menopause and being able to have a child.
Yeah, probably. I think it was a miracle. If it's a miracle, it's a miracle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Naima KAYIRA says that's interesting. Is that menopause a sign that women need to wind up? It's probably
that is a sign that women should wind up. But if God decide to give you a child, even after menopause, so what do? You just take it.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much. Naima KAYIRA, I wanted to bring you in simply just to widen the conversation here just a little bit in terms of coming back, because I shared our own experience of the 7 years gap between the twins and then the last born, or the current last born. I would like to hear your own take. Whether was that a shock at all for you?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
To be honest, for me, I give credit to women who give birth over 5, 6, 7 children. Experiences for me hasn't been good with pregnancy. So having to learn that after 7 years, there is another one coming, that was quite, I don't know, not shock. And then I had to accept it. Your body is not ready for it. So I think for some of us, we reach a time where you sort of wind up and say, Alhamdulillah, I've had 4, 5, I think this is it. But like they said, God is the overall planner. We thought we were done, but he then gave us, blessed us with a tawhida, mashallah. So for me, but my experience wasn't. My experience was quite very difficult with the last child, because I felt too old. I remember I couldn't get into bed. My son had to always come put my legs in. It was so. It's to be honest, it's better you have your children earlier. And also, in terms of, is there an age that we should stop on? I think society, there's a way society looks at a lady with gray hair with pregnant. There's a way they despise, like omukadde naye akya enjoying the little fun. There's a way abana bayiza okufuka bandange. So what's going on here? But like they said, it's all God's plan. For me, anyway, I have difficulties with pregnancy, so I don't jump up and down when I learn when the pregnancy test goes double line. I don't jump up and down, but I say Alhamdulillah, and then pray that God helps me through it. But when you talked about the menopause, I think that's it's a very interesting take. It takes this to another level that actually our God also put measures. Otherwise, we would be giving birth.
Would have gone on,
gone on and on. But he's saying actually there's a point where women, you need to sort of wind up. So and I think menopause is one of them, because your body now starts withdrawing from the natural reproductive way of doing things.
Ajat Naima, while you are still at it, I think Ajat Sarah has just Googled as usual and managed to find here. Actually, Google is saying that there is a medical procedure that aims to delay menopause for 20 years, which was launched by the IVF in Britain, which means very soon again, science is coming in to interrupt with that natural dispensation which we might be in. Now, just as a final thought, Naima, the current last born is 8 years old. It was 7 years between her and the twins. What if you woke up and 8 years later now again you're pregnant?
Mondeka. The thing I like Sister Hafsa said, if you don't want surprises, then fold your legs, isn't it? So to be honest, if you're still having fun, you can expect it.
Assalamu alaikum Ugegendo Fumbe. Thank you very much. Sheikh Amriki, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello? Yes, Kamrigi. Hello?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
She sebondoza ebigambo biwulidde. Nzija uwo mu kuwonzika. First of all, okadde ekyo omuntu bw'alina okukomako ogenda okuzaala.
Ya alhamdulillah. Ekyo sikirinaako buyinza, ekyo kigezo kya Allah yamanyi wawoteeko. As long as nti yakulabye okyasobola okubeera, there's no why you stop yourself.
Yes.
Because nze nina bakadde bange Allah basaasire nti they get children. The last one, he get 18 children, and the last one was she was 59. The last born, she was 59, and that was the 18th one.
Allah.
And all of them, they are okay. They are healthy. Those are my siblings. They are all healthy. Because that was the one which was in the last born. He just finished university years ago.
Oh, shit.
Now she's doing her. Understand? For me, the age I don't see as a barrier for the woman, or a man to get what? To get a child. If they are still enjoying themselves, let them enjoy. If God bless them with a kid, that they are blessing. That is their blessing. They have to thank God. Why are we stopping them to say, "Oh, your age is this, your age is this, you are not going to get this"? My parents, they didn't get science. They didn't. All the children was coming naturally, and they born them naturally. No going for this
IVF or whatever for treatment. Yes, fertility treatment.
Syndrome.
Yes.
They didn't go there.
But they were eating. They were eating their makongo. They were eating their juni. They were eating their nakati.
Why don't you eat?
Why don't you eating that?
Why don't you eat juni and the nakati and the book everything? Who stop you?
Nobody. Okay.
Those things is not there now. KAYIRA,
Now,
those nakati is not there now.
They are there.
Then people, they have to eat healthy and they'll still have healthy life and they enjoy themselves. If God bless them with the children, let them get children. Don't give them any age to stop.
Barakallahu fikum.
Because one point, yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Nabiyuna Ibrahim,
yes,
got child, the first child, when he was 89.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was Nabi Ismail. Then after 11 years, yeah, he get Ishaq.
Yes.
Yeah. So why don't you put yourself in that shoes and say, if the 90 something year get children, why don't I 60 get children if God give it to me?
But Sheikh, I think it's about how long these people lived. Because if you see the time of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, they were living up to 500, 600 years. Our age is 60 and 70. We are almost knocked out.
I know that. That's the age where God bless you with the children when you are 70. That is because he gives you that age.
All right. Okay, barakallahu fikum, Sheikh. I'll only say thank you very much because I've got 6 minutes remaining. We've got 2 hands up. I'll just read this message quickly and then I'll come to Mrs. B and then finish with Musa Rugemwa, who has been very, very participative today. Message from Mars, which says oral contraceptives using birth control pills during your reproductive years are associated with later onset of menopause, especially for Black women. Now, that's a note. Ryan says it is very expensive. Mwagara Kuria Chips says Hajabe Kawesa. Stella Wanderema says, well said, Sheikh. We should not put an age limit on when we should be done with having babies. Mrs. B, I've been looking for you all throughout until finally we get you with 5 minutes to go. Welcome to the conversation.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah, I like this topic. Yes. But let me tell you something. When Allah wills, alhamdulillah. No. But when time comes, enough is enough.
Yes.
You cannot put your kids through this. I work in the healthcare profession, and you've come across some patients. They've had kids later in life, not because that's their first child, no. They've got all the children, but they leave for the younger child. Their time comes up and they're like, please, let me leave. I want to see my child go to secondary. He's in his 70s, 80s. Ask them go to uni. We are not Allah. There's only so much you can do. But he's living for this one child and the sadness in their face. And I think sometimes it's regret because some of them have confessed. They haven't spent enough time with this child. Not because they wanted to, but things happened. If Allah wills, alhamdulillah, but do not push it. That's what I think.
Right. But now there's the issue that actually is, sort of crossing my mind, interestingly, in this particular conversation, which is around the amount of value that we attach, probably, because actually there are women. I've seen some women, I know about 2 or 3 women who get excited whenever they see a baby. Like you go to visit a baby and then all of a sudden they also want to have another baby. You go to visit someone who has had a baby, regardless of their age, and they feel like they want to have a baby because they've seen someone who has had a baby.
Alhamdulillah, that's normal. We all love children. We all love them, but you know what? At the age of 60, what are you going to do to their child when they're 10? Are you going to trust them around the park?
That's food for thought, definitely, that we are taking away tonight.
That's what I was coming back to.
Mrs. B.
We have to. It's very nice to have the kids, but stop being. I think sometimes a bit being selfish. It's serving your own interests, but at the end of the day, you brought this innocent child into the world. For through of their own. You might leave them when they are 2, they are 3. Alhamdulillah, things happen. But then, when you grow older, when you're 80 and they're 10, what are you going to do with them when they've got younger parents? You're going to school parties, school sports days, like somebody said.
But Mrs. B, could there be pressure probably? Because some people now, as we can see, relationships are breaking up and people are getting remarried. You feel you owe the person that you have married a sort of a child, regardless of whether you are 60 or whatever. You feel like you owe this person, the kind of relationship that you have, the love that you have. You are married before, he was married before. Allah brings you together in that later stage of your lives.
Yeah, KAYIRA.
You want to give a gift, yes.
No, forget about the gift. If someone loves you, they love you for who you are.
Yeah, but you want something
They're not loving
to
you for your children. They might as well love your children just like their own. And you love their children like their own.
Right.
What's the point of having this child and you can't give them their time? The child's gonna be crying all night. He gets stressed, you get depressed. And then what? The love disappears.
Understood.
You gotta put yourself first and then grow from that.
Thank you.
There's a limit for everything. Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Fantastic. 2 minutes to go. And Lorraine, you are back. I'll go to Musa Rugema with the last one. Lorraine, I'll take you in now. Lorraine, looks like something is burning.
Yes, something is burning. I'll actually speak in Uganda. Shake. Back to the previous caller. I'll speak Luganda.
Yes.
Back to the previous caller. Rachi chiba one-sided. Ngogamba nti no, a 60-year-old man cannot take care of omwana bulungi nga muzadde, right? Naye omusajja oyo, when it comes to relationships, nti kati afunye omukazi oba omuwala omuto asobola omulabirira bulungi era mumugabayo bulungi n'amulabirira. Jukira oyo naye aba mwana. Let's say omuwala ali 27 oba 30 oba 32. Jukira aba mwana ku musajja owa 60. Right or wrong? Ate nga bakikola nnyo. Religiously abamu babafumbiza oba afumbirwa. Yes, eyo age aba ategeera. Naye abanga ali ne muwala we. Kati njawo simanyi bwe nyiza kiteeka mu context entuufu. Kyenjagala okuleeta kikino nti bwe kijja kukufumbirwa baddira abawala abato ne babafumbiza abasajja abakulu. Okitegeera ne bagamba it's okay ajja mulabirira. Ate omusajja oyo bwabeera n'omuwala omuto amulabiriranga muwala we oba ng'omwana we. So kyendowooza mu kino nti ne bw'aba azadde asobola okulabirira omwana oyo bulungi kubanga abeera mwana we. It's not necessarily nti olw'okuba mukadde tasobola mulabirira mboba yeeralikira nti anafa. It's the same ne bw'abeera mu relationship n'omwana omuto abeera yeeralikira nti nno asobola okufa oba asobola omulekawo. Really and truly ekyo tekiyinza kubeerawo nti kidetermining oba kitiisa omuntu okubeera ng'azaala ku myaka egyo. Nze kyendowooza nti wangi
amabeere gugaba gakyalimu ng'omuntu bw'azaala nakirabiikosawo ku myaka enkaaga ogenda muyonsa ga mbogo oba
no ebyennaku zino abantu tebayonsa kubanga toyagala amabeere go gagwe obeere ng'ofunye omusajja then ng'amabeere
ngaaga mwena ng'okyakwatidde
Pardon?
Nkaaga mwena ng'okyakwatiridde ebbeere anti toyagala ligwe.
No, kyengamba kikino. Bw'obeerako eyo age, osobola okukozesa amata gano ge bakola mu gundi mu supermarkets no feeding omwana. Even then wadde bagamba nti no oba tofeedinze mwana na gundi na bbeere lyombo oba takula bulungi. No, be basinga n'amagezi actually tekiri scientifically okay, yes, science waali naye era still era science abeera defied kubanga ne woyonsa omwana oba ne w'omuwagali almost biringa byebimu, to be honest with you.
Nze nja kuwakanya Hajati aliko kubanga bo abaami enjawulo eriwo wakati w'abakyala n'abaami bo tebeetikka mwana. Gwe omubiri gwe gujja kukosebwa mu kwetikka omwana era kibagezaako okulaga nti bw'oba okuze tekyandibadde kirungi kweteeka mu buzibu obwo. Bw'oba omuzadde tewali kyakukola naye oyinza okufuna ebizibu bingi nnyo mu kuzaala gwe ng'omuntu. Kyokka omwami ye kyaba asigalidde kwe kubeera nga atunulira mu financial aspects n'ebintu ebirala naye gwe omukyala egy'emyaka munnange kigende mu mpola.
Okay, nkitegeera. Naye ate bwe tuddayo emabega nti okay, let's give an example. Let's ozalidde ku 36 oba kale 35 okosa omubiri, right? Togukosa oba ogukosa?
Oba okyali muto bane omuntu asuse obeera kale advanced naye ate risks tezenkana ate muntu ali mu 40 or 50.
The ability y'omubiri okwerepairinga is much higher when you're younger as opposed
naye ng'olowooza lwaki tulaba cases ng'abantu abamu bakosebwa nnyo ng'azadde akaana kamu ali 28 oba 27 n'olaba oli omulala ng'azadde ku 35 n'aba nga mugumu nnyo n'okusinga oli owa 27 alina akaana kamu n'alina abaana babiri oba basatu naye nga mugumu. I think it depends on your body as well kuba buli muntu alina engeri gya handlinga gundi ye omubiri gwe gulina engeri gye guhandlinga ekintu oba ekyo ekimubeera mu mubiri. Nze bwe ndowooza buli omu alina
n'embeera omuntu kwali diet environment omuntu gy'alimu. Tulina abakyala nze omukyala n'ayagala okudduka yeezaaza yayingira mu kisenge ne yeezaaza amala okwezaaza n'afuluma n'adda ku baafu okwoza
n'ekirala
misinde maanyi ge.
N'ekirala Sheikh abasajja abakyala aba Nigeria n'abanaggana especially kuva West Africa bagenderere bazaala nnyo nga bali mu myaka 4+ obalaba ne bu baby ku ssomero nga bakulu bakyala bakulu. In fact sometimes oyinza okulowooza bajjajja naye ng'ate bamaama nga baana
abasinga abo Lorraine abasinga abo their cases babeera mu second marriages era ogenda okulanga ayinayo omwana gwe yazaala previously ow'obuto then n'aleetayo nakana
akokulirako emmere
naye lwaki owokuli but either way yadde waakulirako mmere era omukazi oyo abeera akuze jjukira babeeranga mu myaka 4 obatunulira mu face baba bakulu ngera omulaba alinga jjajja naye ng'alina bubebi ng'ate bw'omubuuza ono bebi wagamba yes. Nze kyendowooza era kyendowooza scientifically kirina okubeera nga kiri mu diet gye tulya nti ffe tulya nnyo abantu abamu kati nga parts ezimu ze tuvaamu abantu abamu balya nnyo olaba nga carbohydrates biki ate ekyo kirina onset ya menopause kigireeta mangu okiraba ate bali baba Nigeria balya nnyo fish ndowooza obamanyi mu byennyanja stockfish biki ne legumes ng'ebijanjaalo n'obwo obujanjaalo bwabwe obwo bwe bali obwa white obwa black obwa red ate ng'ekyo kyo kidilayinga menopause kati jjukira babeera babirya for a very long time kyovola abalwawo basigala bakyalwala nga bafuna periods na buli kimu era basobola okuzaala at a later stage.
Lorraine, Mrs. B azemu wano, let's have that conversation to wrapping up because we are time. Stay on Lorraine. Mrs. B okomye orabiko inaka kocha. The conversation just gets interesting when we are wrapping up, but that's the beauty of
let's agree to disagree when the time is right. Panangi tuchite. Wallahi tuchite.
Yeah?
Let's agree to disagree. When your body clock says that is it, tuchite. Ala get it day. If you're in for companionship, happiness, enjoy yourselves. Please, don't bring in kids.
One way I was saying was an agant in companionship, but dogenze no get a kagenda go mukanda kugo.
Obogenze kulia happy.
Anti ngo komye wona mwana. No violence.
60. Omwana ali 90. That's being selfish. Yeah.
Thank you very much for a very beautiful conversation.
I know that's in our culture in Uganda. Nadala Mbasiram. The Sakura Mbasiram, when I have seen it as because I've been Mbasiram, it's very common in their culture. At the end of the day, it is what it is, but is it the right thing to do? You were 70, Mama 20, your own daughter.
Kastabanga mwe mirembe. Nza would think mwe mirembe. Amwe mirembe amulabirira. So why not? Kati wachi
disagree.
I can only thank you very, very much.
Let's agree to disagree.
Okay.
Omsajja was 70. No mwala was 20. Yes, abale says 70. What do you have in common?
Happiness.
Yegamanyi gekisajja gabaje egali. Waliwo ebintu ebirimba. Ddala omusajja oyo aba akyasamba akapiira.
No. Abasajja no, genda out mu restaurants. Basajja abasinga abakulu abali mu 50s be basinga no. In fact, bo babanga batandika their life. okitegeera no wonder baba bagala omuntu abazzeemu amaanyi so bagenda that's why they go for younger girls.
It's the money, it's the benefits.
No, of course benefits weziri
abantu okitegeera kati nze ngende musajja wange Haji Buwembo nga neyagala because myaka gyange alhamdulillah naye nga ntambula n'omusajja wa 70 mankukuta
bwaba lwaki nkukuta nga mpa emirembe.
Ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very beautiful conversation tonight. We have been talking how old is too old to have a baby, and it is clear this is one conversation that won't end tonight. It is a conversation that will continue, but thank you very much for making it a very interesting program. To all of you who have contributed, thank you very much. Let's meet next week with another very interesting topic. This has been Come Let's Talk with me, KASSIM KAYIRA, live on 75W Radio and on Umma Connect, on Facebook, on Zoom, and on YouTube. Thank you very much and have a very good night. Till next week, inshallah, may Allah abakum. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.